All right. Climber, do you have what it takes to pitch your own songs and get them cut? Are you ready to hire a song plugger? Well, we're going to dive into all that and more on today's episode. Johnny, do that thing you do.
Welcome to the Climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. That's just the bottom line of what you're gonna need. Listen, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because you don't need anybody's permission. They can't make you into dancing chicken. If you can prove that your art, the way that you want to do it, has value and that people are responding and people are following and you have an audience and you have cash flow, everybody that you want to talk to in the music industry will come out of the woodwork to talk to you. That's where you want to be. That's why we called it the Climb, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. Brilliant. Thank you. That's a backstory from my good friend, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's a hit songwriter, by the way, with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Got a couple number ones in Southern Gospel in the last couple 3 years.
Something.
And still making miracles happen. But what's really cool about Brent, besides the fact that he's a saint, and he imports children from China, and him and his wife are awesome, is that he also helps songwriters like you, not just Chinese kids, but songwriters like you, turn pro by revealing how to write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then once you got your act together, you need to have relationships. So then he puts you in touch with the pros. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
Hey, how you living?
Living large, man. Got a kid home sick from school today, a little Hurricane Hazel. And so God bless my wife, homeschooling and has Hazel home. So with that being said, I'm really happy to be recording right now because I'm like, I got an appointment.
Yeah,
I got to be in the office.
I got to work.
Got to work.
I got a kid homesick from school today too. Janelle's a little banged up from last night.
I don't think that's from school. Yeah.
Well, you can call it going to school.
Going to school. Yeah.
But man, we got a lot going on. We had a great we had the best party a couple nights ago for Nashville Nights. We just sort of had the regroup. I had a big old barbecue and man, CJ Fields was here, TJ was here, TJ Box and D Vincent Williams, sorry, and
Jan Michael Vincent, yeah,
Jan Michael Vincent, yeah. We talked about we talked about White Lightning. It was just great, man. There was probably, I don't know, 30 songwriters here, and we had fire pit in the back, right? I was grilling up hamburgers and hot dogs, and everybody was mowing it down. Then we did smoked old fashions, and I am proud to say that
D. Vincent
Williams is a fan of my smoked old fashions. He had a couple, and we all had a couple, and it was really fun. CJ feel like it too. He's Grammy nom, he's writing with Ashley, like he's got it going on. Like it was so fun. Ava Page was here and slayed the room with one of her songs. Like just when you're in a room full of hit writers and then you drop one, everybody's just like, oh, and it's like so good. They're like pissed off. You know, like
impressed off. Yeah.
It's like, damn, like I wish that one was mine. Like that was good. And Marla co-wrote that with her, which is fun. We just had her on the show. So anyway, we got we had that going on, and tonight it's sort of let's just call it a soft open, if you will. But we're gonna try to, we've been doing the Nashville Nights thing in Phoenix, and at the end of the month we're gonna be down there. They have we've got like 2 club shows where we're doing it, and then our first house party, which is kind of cool. So which is really fun. But tonight is we're doing it in Nashville at the local. And so we have Lee. I
Thomas
forget.
Miller?
No.
Majors, Lee Majors. You got Lee Majors? That's
The $6 million
awesome.
man.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I can't. My brain is so fried right now. We got a hit
Good thing.
songwriter.
I'm
He's really
really glad this is my episode.
he's really huge. But anyway, we're gonna do the interview thing with him, right?
Nice.
Blue and I are, and then there's gonna be a round where he's in it and everything like that. So we're not doing any of the camera stuff on this one. It's just kind of like some logistic stuff that
Hmm.
we figured out where a lot of the bodies are buried, and now we know how to do it better next time. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's kind of cool. So we're gonna just see if we can market this thing, and if Americans are going to be as interested in like the meet the writers kind of a thing
Hmm.
as they are in Denmark,
Yeah.
as the Danes are. So anyway, super excited about that, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So,
So we're gonna
what are we going to
learn
talk
about how to get a cut.
Yeah, so I'm going to be pulling from this book, Song Plugger: The Cuts and Bruises, that was
Oh,
written by Penny Dion and Troy McConnell, and I got this sucker back in some of the episodes recently. Been some of these old books that I've pulled out that are like packed with goodies. I'm trying to remember what year this was. This was a while back when we got this. I'm not even sure what year. The 2008. It says copyright 2008. So it's got a little quote intro by Chris Oglesby, but basically what they do. Penny was a song plugger, and she went and she and Troy interviewed all these different song pluggers and producers and different people, and just like an inside look at the business of song plugging, how it's done, including 27 industry interviews. So just a lot of good stuff in there. The industry's obviously changed since 2008, but a lot of the principles are still golden. And
mm-hmm.
so I thought it'd be fun to kind of dive into that. I have some fun stories out of this. I just wanted to share with you, dear climber, and hopefully we'll motivate you and educate you on your journey.
All right, I love it. Well, first, let's take care of a little business. Join the
Yes.
C.L.I.M.B community if you haven't done so. It's facebook.com/groups/the C.L.I.M.B community. You have to ask to be let in. We let everybody in, though. And
Mm-hmm.
we want to hear all about your gigs, and we want
Mm-hmm.
to hear all about your new songs.
Mm-hmm.
And every single week, every week, we want to hear about all these different things. We want to hear about your new wins and all that, but we give you a place to put it. It's not in the feed. So it's just a simple rule: be nice, and put everything where it's supposed to go. If you don't put it where it's supposed to go, you're going to get roadhoused. So we just protect this community like with everything we got, man. Like
Yeah.
everything we got, because this is a cool community. And so do not spam. If you put that crap in the feed, we know you don't even listen to the podcast. Like somehow you just got in. And I don't even know how they find us, but
All right.
God bless them. But we have new heights every Wednesday, which is where everybody like shouts out their wins,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And you just on that post, you can put everything you want. We have new music. Was it New Music Monday, right? Like
We have Music Monday, which we encourage you to share your music as a comment in the comment under that post. And we have, Gig Alert on Thursdays, so you can let us know where you're playing out that weekend. That's where that belongs in the comments there. It's like we have fridges for these different things. Keep your milk in the fridge. If you don't, it spoils and nobody's happy.
there you go. That's it. And if you can put stuff in the feed, but the stuff in the feed has to be universal. It's not about you. It's about something that's going to help everybody. You run across a really cool article, a really cool book, or something that's funny. You know what I mean? That's interesting, or that is going to be consumed by this group of singers, songwriters, and indie artists and indie musicians. Then by all means, put it in there. I just put in, by the way, did you see that? Like the top 10 lighting mistakes that beginners make.
Yeah, I haven't clicked on it yet, but I saw it.
One of my lighting gurus, and my cinematography guru guys, and I've spent money on his bigger courses that were really valuable. But he's got this thing. By the time everybody hears this, it's going to be too late. So if you don't see it, it's like the first week of this launch, he's got like a lighting masterclass
Mm-hmm.
course that he put together. And in the first week, you can get like 25% off. And it's this whole masterclass course literally for $147. I mean, this is how you can make your friggin' iPhone a rock star instrument, a rock
Yeah.
star tool. And it really is about the lighting and everything. And that's the difference between, something that just looks amateur and something that looks pro. And I mean, $147 for an education that nobody can ever take away from you is, man, that's just worth it, you know. But the
Mhm.
video itself was just 10 top 10 mistake. That's free. It's right there,
Nice.
you know, and so you can learn some different stuff. So anyway, that's what goes on in the climb community, you know. And so add to that, right? Like that whole thing was just gonna be
Mhm.
great for everybody there. I think Casey Bali commented on it right away, like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And
Yeah.
I'm sure a couple people took advantage of it. But that's it. So we got any Wednesday wins?
Of course, we always do, but more than we have time to share, but we'll share just a couple. Climber Kathy Wallace says, found out a song I wrote with Sal Cosin- Cosentino was picked up by Crucial Music for pitching to film and TV, and it's a Christmas tune. So, Merry Christmas, Kathy Wallace, and I hope
Yeah, way to
it
go,
becomes a
Kathy
Christmas
Wallace.
miracle. And so that's a good one. Let's see here. We have Brad Hacker. A song written with Patrick Adams, Michael Parker, and Chris Tiscarino is getting a re-listen for a major artist thanks to some good writing and another amazing Troy Johnson demo. I'm telling you, kids, if you don't have some Troy Johnson demos in your catalog, I highly recommend that you do. So,
Yeah, well, you know, here at the Climb, we swear by Troy Johnson,
yes, we do. I mean,
at
you
the
hear his voice
beginning and
every
at the end of
time on
every
the
frickin'
intro.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the one singing the song. So,
Uh-huh.
mhm.
That's right. So, hey, follow the podcast or subscribe wherever you consume it, and make sure that you tell a friend about it. That's really the big thing. Help us help them, right? Like you're
That's right.
listening because I met another climber last night at the writer show. So we had last night was kind of a big night. Like we had Bridget Tatum who wrote
Mhm. She's
some
country.
country,
Shoot.
yeah, for Jason Aldean, number one
Yeah.
shoot from a cow from her country roots to her cowboy boots to her country roots, the down home roots. But
Yeah, you
anyway,
nailed that.
she just launched her new publishing company, and so they
Mhm.
had a big party, uh, and like a proper party, right? Open bar, hors d'oeuvres, the whole thing at
Yeah.
Analog in Nashville, which was really fun. A bunch of people were there, and then everybody left from there, including Bridget, and like Emma Zink is her first artist that they signed, which is really
Mhm.
cool. And I'm a huge fan of Emma. We just
Yeah,
like
Emma's great.
absolutely love her writing, her singing, and she's also just a monster guitar player, which
Yeah.
of course is from my mothership. I love her for that. But then everybody heads over to the local because there was freak show, and it was just an amazing freak show, and it was a good time, man. You know,
Good deal.
and I had a point to this.
The
Uh,
point is apparently to make Brent feel sucky that
oh
he's
no,
not in
I met
Nashville
a.
enough because
You're
I
not
missed
in
the
Nashville
party,
enough.
the live thing tonight, and the thing last night.
Oh,
So
and then I met a
thanks.
climber there. You know, came up
And you
and
met a
say hey,
climber,
and
Brody, right?
Brody, yeah, Brody
Hey, Brody.
Casper, I think his name was, and he came over. He's just like, "Man, I heard your voice and I recognize your voice. You're Johnny, right?" I was like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Dude, I listened to the climb." I'm like, "Oh my god, let's take a picture." And so we took a picture. I posted it like in the climb community right then and there because that's fun. I love it when they, you know, climbers come up and say hey. But anyway,
Yep.
man, so you know, listen, y'all get excited about this. There's something that we're bringing here that you're finding valuable, which thrills Brent and I to death. But tell somebody about it. You know, let them know and turn them on to the podcast, right?
Mhm.
And let them go. So so that's it.
Let's get into the sucker.
Let's
We've
get
been
into this.
chitty chatty.
How do I get a cut?
All right, so this is from Song Plugger, The Cuts and the Bruises, which I believe is available on Amazon. You can check some other online retailers, but mine is starting to fall apart. So, but that's okay. So is my music career. So, but bump. No. So this first interview, so there are like 27 industry interviews with people, and this is with Cheryl Blackman. So Cheryl is a well-known independent song plugger. He's worked with tons of people, gotten a bunch of cuts, and
Mhm.
just been in the
I know
business a long
Cheryl.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know Cheryl too. So
He wrote the book?
no. He is one of the interviews.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
going to pull. There's this great story. I just want to. It's about what. So this episode is titled "Was What Does It Take to Get a Cut?" And basically, spoiler alert, it takes perseverance. And so Cheryl has a great story about perseverance, and I just think it's a hoot. So I just wanted to share it. So Penny asked him, "Do you have a great story about perseverance?" He goes, "Yeah. I had this one song I really believed in." So again, this is Cheryl Blackman. I pitched it all over Nashville. I pitched it. Everyone liked it. Went on hold a few times and then got dropped. I kept thinking somebody has to cut this song. So I wanted to play it for Al Cooley, who at the time was A&R for Atlantic Records. I was told that if you wanted to play a song for Al, you just had to go over and sit in the lobby and wait for him. But I was also told, don't call Al because he won't return your phone call. He'll see you there and ask you, in his office to play the song. So you just got to go over the lobby, sit there and wait for him to come out. He'll see you, he'll ask you back. So I went over and sat in the lobby waiting for Al to come out. That was on a Monday or a Tuesday afternoon. I sat there and waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It probably turned out to be like 3.5 hours. And then Al finally comes out of his office and says, "So, what do you have for me?" I told him, "Al, I have one up-tempo song. I really believe in it." And he looked me in his eye and goes, he looks at his watch. He goes, "Well, I don't have time today. Come back tomorrow." So the next day, I go back again and I sit in the lobby for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it got to be around like 4:45. Al comes out and sees me sitting and says, "Oh, yeah, you're supposed to come back today and play me a song, right?" I said, "Yes." He looks at his watch and says, "Well, I got a bowling match. I don't have time today. Come back again tomorrow." So I come back the next day and I'm sitting there for
Third
an
day
hour.
now.
Third
Third
day.
day.
I'm sitting there for an hour, 2 hours, probably 2.5 hours. When he finally comes out and he looks at me and says, "You got one song, right?" I said, "Yeah, it's just one song." He says, "All right, come and play me this song. It better be good." Well, I went back to his office, played him the song, and he loved it. He listened to it over and over again. He put it on hold and told me that he was sending it to John Michael Montgomery. So this is kind of back in the day. He said, "Don't be surprised if John Michael calls you." Al said that he was sure John would really love the song. He sent it to John Michael, and sure enough, about 3 days later, John Michael called me and said, "I love it." He ended up cutting it. The song was called "Lucky Arms," and it got cut on the 39th pitch.
Wow.
So, yes. And so, Penny says, or Troy says, "Wow, that's actually a really great story about perseverance." Cheryl says, "It was just the right song at the right time." It took 3 days of sitting in the lobby just waiting it out. But I realized that Al was testing me. He wanted to see how much I believed in that song. Al used to be a plugger from the old days. He said that he was tested and that he was testing people to see if they had what it took. I told other song pluggers what they had to do if they wanted to get in to see Al Cooley during that time, but not many of them did it. Anyway, that was a 39th pitch on that song. So I think there's so much to dig out of that,
Yep.
I mean, for one, Cheryl was connected enough in the community for somebody to have the intel to tell him, like, "Yeah, don't bother calling Al. You got to go and sit in his office," right?
Mm-hmm.
One, connection, somebody told him that. So don't
Yep.
disregard that part. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known. He'd just been calling, going, "I wonder why he never calls me back," or returns my emails or whatever. Two, he did it. Like, he went and he sat there for what, 3.5 hours the first day? And he
3
waited
hours the second day.
3 hours the second day,
2.5 hours the
3
third
hours
day.
or whatever. I mean, we're talking,
It's 10 hours.
Yeah, he's invested 10 hours sitting there waiting to play one song for this person. And it worked out. I mean, I have that John Michael Montgomery album behind me somewhere, and I have that song. I was like, I know that song. It's a good song. And he had to pitch it 39 times and sit in a dude's office for 10 hours over 3 days. That's that kind of perseverance of like, and it's one song. Some people would want to say, well, if I'm going to sit for 10 hours, I'm going to load that mofo up with like as many songs until he kicks me out of his office. Right?
Yeah, right.
But no, I got one song. I believe in it. I'm not going to overload you and leave you wanting less. I'm going to leave you wanting more. And so it worked. It worked out. So 39 pitches. I thought that was really cool.
Well, you know what? Like something else comes to mind here, and that is that I think about the story behind American Kids, right? Which is
the Kenny Chesney
I'm not
number
a huge
one.
Kenny Chesney fan. I'm just not but that song is not only my favorite Kenny Chesney song, but like one of my favorite country songs. Like I just love it. It speaks to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about the 80s kids and all,
Yeah.
So it's about me. If you ask me, and I love it. But that was first pitched to Lady A,
Yeah.
Now this is a hit song. It's an undeniable hit song, and Lady A passes because it's not a hit song for them.
Right. And I can kind of hear them on it, but yet I can also hear them not on it. It's like I see why they pitched it to
hard
them.
to hear anybody else after Kenny.
It is. But I could see like, I could see why you could pitch that to them. That seems like an intelligent pitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's, not a bad pitch.
But they didn't see it. So there's so many variables on this, right? That are about, is it the right song for the artist? Is it the right song? Maybe it is the right song for that specific artist, but not right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe it's going to be next record or the record after that. Or so it's just, I think too often we get hung. I remember when I first got into the mortgage industry when I was doing the finance thing, and the first company I worked for was AmeriQuest. And AmeriQuest had this like hugely awesome training program for 2 weeks. You got paid to go up and train, right?
Mhm.
To learn about mortgages and learn how it's done and learn their software and this whole thing. And it's like I mean, everybody's just a babe in the woods, man. Like
Yeah.
nobody knows it. And they're just teaching people with go get 'em mentality and salespeople that, how to do mortgages, right? And how
Mhm.
to put one together and what we're selling, blah, blah. And I remember the regional manager saying, okay, now, towards the end of the training, he's like, now you're all going to go home and everybody, trust me, you're all going to start obsessing over the first loan.
Mhm.
Stop it.
Mhm.
Don't do it. You know what I mean? And don't, because you're going to waste so much time worrying about that one file. What you need to be doing is creating more files. Just start putting boatloads of files into the pipe because some of them are going to drop out. There's nothing
Mhm.
worse than worrying about that long process on the first one and you're banking all your apples in that one basket, and then it doesn't go through,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, oh, now you're just defeated. But
Yeah.
if you've got, 20 in the pipe,
Mhm.
it's a different story, you know what I mean? And so I feel like that was I think so many people put so much emphasis on one song, especially in the beginning, if it's your first one that's
Yeah.
getting
A little
some
bit of love, a little
a little bit
attention.
of love, and then, some of the real amateurs, which are like, "Well, I got these 3 songs, I'm gonna demo them and just see how they do before I decide if
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna choose this level." And I don't think that the real songwriters choose songwriting. I think
Yeah, you just
songwriting chooses them,
have to write.
Brent, you tried to not choose songwriting, and look at what happened to you.
I mean, when I was in college when I started writing lyric, and I'd been writing other stuff before that, but that was just the thing that, that was the key that unlocked the door, and that was like, "Ooh, happy place."
Yeah.
And, but I was like, "Ah, I better go get a degree in business and stuff and go do something else," and just to have my backup, and just miserable anytime I've had to go do something else. It's like,
Mhm.
because there have been times I've had to do other things, and it sucks. It
Mhm.
just sucks. That is not my
It
happy
doesn't
place.
work, man. Well,
It is
me
not.
too. I mean, like, I started out touring. I was on tour when I was 19 or 20, and
Mhm.
my first band when I 7th grade, and then when they lifted up the needle on the whole genre, I just was like, "Well, I didn't see that one coming. I can think of a million ways this one was gonna go sideways.
That was
That
not one of
wasn't
them.
one of them." Yeah, that was
Yeah.
not one. Just like everybody's done. Everybody? Really? Like,
Yeah.
damn. And we'd done so then I just got into business um it was so strange. On one hand, I remember leaving Nashville to go to LA and honestly thinking on the way out of town as I drove, I know I'm about to go on this journey and I know everything I'm going to learn on this journey is going to bring me back here. Like I just
Mhm.
kind of knew it. I don't know
Yeah.
how. Um, and then 15 years later,
Mhm.
after the whole financial meltdown, and that was me trying to adult, and I'm just like, oh, well, this is friggin' chaos, and I might as well just go. I can get this kind of chaos doing what I love to do, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
Mhm.
it was you didn't choose songwriting. Songwriting chose you,
Yeah.
I didn't choose music. Music chose me. It had me from
Mhm.
the beginning, man, and I just was, like, fascinated with it, and so I think so there is no, "We're just gonna see how these 3 do," and
Yeah.
no, man, like, you're writing if you're not writing, you're afraid that you're gonna be climbing a tower with a gun, you're gonna be on the 6 o'clock news,
Yeah.
like, so that's and so just keep pumping and
Yeah,
pumping
you
and
gotta just
pumping.
keep. I mean, because I mean, I can guarantee that's not the only song that Cheryl was pitching at the time, and not the only
Sure.
door he was not the only
No,
lobby
that
he
was the one
walked
that he
into.
believed in, and I'm just talking about, like, from the writer
Yes.
perspective, like, that you have to
And from the
from the
plugging
Cuts and
perspective.
Bruises stories that we had when we in
Mhm.
Denmark, it's like, "Oh, I got, 15 top 10 hits. That's awesome. Yeah, and so how many bruises you got? Oh, like 1,500."
Right, yeah. Mhm. At
It's just
least.
like
Yeah.
or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue's written 2,500 songs, it's just
Yeah.
like and they all are pretty damn good,
Yeah.
and there's some gems in there to be sure.
Mhm.
But, it's just that thing. It's a volume thing now, especially now.
Yeah, it really is. And so that leads to another story. Penny, it says, that's a great example of not giving up on a song you believe in. What keeps you believing in a song? He said, there's just something about it that really turns me on. I'm really passionate about it. I'm going to play that song until everybody's heard it and passed on it. Got another story about not giving up on a song that you believe in. There's a new artist on Equity Records named Laura Berna. So this is 2008. And one of the songs that she cut on our album, I had pitched for years over and over again. When Laura cut it, I went back to see how many times I pitched it and counted 132 times
Wow.
to get the cut.
Wow.
Because you believe in it. And how many of us want to give up after, somebody didn't believe in it once or twice? And there's a balance to it. There's believing in your songs, but then also being open to feedback, and having a desire to learn and grow and get better. Like, I believed in a lot of my early songs. Now I can look back on it and go, what was I believing in? That's crazy, because that song is not great at all. It's maybe decent. But at the time I believed in it. But what kept me from being stuck there is what you talked about, Johnny, the desire to create. Like, I have to keep writing songs. So naturally I was getting better because I was working hard at it. And I was open and wanted to learn and wanted to grow. So there's a balance of not beating a dead horse, of being honest with yourself, of taking feedback. Does this just really suck? Versus, and keeping moving forward, so that eventually, you get better and maybe look back and go, no, this is still a great song. I'm going to keep pitching it, or go, you know what? I'm a lot better now. I have better songs. I'm going to put that one out to pasture. There's a balance to it.
You know what? Like, so we're starting to get mixes back now on the Josh Roy record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing this whole writing process since February. The writers have been going down to Arizona doing that whole thing. And Blue, Fully, Trick Savage, and Josh wrote this song that I just want to give you a perspective from like the producer side and from the executive producer side, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wrote this song that I just freaking love called I Don't Decide. And the song is about the music business, but from the perspective of the honky tonk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, from the perspective, I've seen them come, I've seen them go, and come right back again. Some that make it, some that won't, a superstar now and then.
Yeah.
They want to climb up on my stage looking for that big time ride, but I'm just a honky tonk. I don't decide. That's the chorus.
Yeah, that's so good.
And it's like chill bumps, right? It's this song is like, probably of all the songs they wrote, this is one of my favorite songs. And when it was time to choose the 5 that we're going to put together for the EP, it didn't make the cut. And it wasn't because it wasn't good. It was just like, and it almost was a little heartbreaking for me because I love the song.
Yeah.
But, and there was another song that they have too that was called Cowboy Still Ride. That is such a freaking good song. But Josh isn't a cowboy.
Yeah.
He's a country boy. This is a boy that literally, like, he went out. We bought a bunch of clothes for him.
Yeah.
Like, he went out and spent like $5,000 on a wardrobe because he needed like new clothes. So he looks like and we're like, Josh, like, we had to have the talk with him. You can't go fix your freaking air conditioner up in the attic wearing these pants. Okay. You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Yeah. Cause he will, you know what I mean? He don't think about it like that,
Yeah.
And so it's like, so he's not when I'm sitting with Zach, who co-produced the record with me, Zach Allen, and he's just like, man, is he a cowboy? And I'm like, he's not, like he doesn't do that work. So with this song, can he sell that? As good as the song is, and it's so good, and it sounds so good when he sings it, like it's all there. But then it's like, is that authentic for him? You know what I mean? And so it's like a really hard decision that we had to make. We're like, no, I don't think. And maybe I changed my mind later. You know what I mean? But it was like, maybe Cody Johnson sings this, would sing the fire out of this and make it, because he's a friggin' rodeo star, too. And for the I Don't Decide, do you know what it really came down to? It was like the scope of the audience. Like, I'm getting chill bumps, but that's because I really get the music business.
Yeah.
And I'm knee deep in it. But is the average consumer really gonna freaking understand and connect with that song? And the question, since the answer was, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we had these other songs where we're like, we know.
Yeah.
Are going to connect on this. There was the choice, right?
Yeah.
And but it's a painful choice, because even me, I can pull that lever.
Yeah.
I can pull that lever and talk that artist into doing that. I have that power in this situation.
Yeah.
I really love that fricking song, but I had to be intellectually honest with myself
Mhm.
and be like, "No,"
Yeah.
like, "Oh," and
That's
it
one of those things that it's not
damn.
about the quality of the song. I mean, when it comes
Yeah,
down to, if you have an embarrassment of riches, if a project has, if you're a Lee Brice, if you're Tim McGraw, if you're a Carrie Underwood or whatever, you get the best of the best stuff thrown at you, right? People are
yeah,
wanting hits with you. And so you have no shortage of really great songs, like really
yeah,
strong songs that you could cut. Not like we can't find anything decent to cut. No, it's probably the opposite. Like, wow, we have too many.
yeah,
Okay, now we got to find reasons to whittle this down. And so you weren't
yep,
looking like in the Josh Rohr case, even who's not a big star yet. You still
yep,
had, we got to find reasons to say no to some of these songs. We got to get rid of some of these songs. Okay, what's going to make the difference? Well, in his case, it came down to what fits best his personal brand, his bio that you can build stuff around. Like we can't do a bunch of cowboy stuff, marketing stuff around the song because it's not authentic to who he is. It'll give a false impression of who he is. Especially first project, you really want to get across who this guy is, who this artist is. So that didn't quite fit. Or
yeah,
I don't
and say that
decide.
say
It's like,
that part again, like, say that part again, like, the
mhm,
first thing we're gonna release, man, we have to be Nazis about the brand to
yeah,
make sure that all those songs really are authentic for that artist before we can stretch out a little bit,
hmm,
because we have to paint a clear picture on who he is and what he does. He does not wear a cowboy hat, he wears a
yeah,
ball cap.
hmm,
He is a rugged dude, like, he's a do-it-yourself kinda guy. I
hmm,
can fix this engine, I can fix that trailer, I can fix my own AC. He loves to go camping with his
yeah,
kids, like, he can disappear for 3 days, so he's this is not a city-fi boy by any stretch of the
right,
imagination. So, there's gray area where
hmm,
maybe the Cowboy Still Ride song, which is so amazingly good,
yeah,
um, could work for him, but not on the first record, you know
right,
what I mean?
yeah.
It's
You
just
don't
like
want to
we have to be crystal clear, and
exactly, exactly. I mean,
so that's a lot of nuance, isn't it? Like, but
it
it's
is. I had probably a similar thing happen with Lady A. So I wrote a song called "A Woman Scorned" with
mhm.
Hillary and Casey Kessel and Lee
I cut that
Armstrong.
song with
Yes,
another
that's
artist.
right. We did get another cut on that. And, so I wrote with Hillary back before she knew Charles or Dave, and she loved it, and she played it out, and, she had, like, a development deal on RCA at the time as a solo artist, so eventually met Charles and Dave, and they formed Lady Antebellum, and they started playing out, and they played it, like, in all their shows. Like, you can find it on YouTube, them singing "A Woman Scorned" and,
Mhm.
all their stuff, pre-record deal. And so when it came time for that first album, they cut it because they loved it. Great energy, big rocking
Went
up
over
tempo
live
thing.
well for them
Oh,
already?
so
It already
great.
been
Yeah,
live? Yeah.
yeah. And
All
so
those
it's like,
boxes are checked. All the
right.
boxes are checked.
And then when it came time to, whittle it down from the 14 they cut to the 11 that made the actual, the final record, the main project, it fell off. Why? And I didn't understand that at the time because I'm like, it's, I heard part of it in the studio. I was in the studio for a little bit of here and there, and sounds great. But then when the record came out, I got to hear the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, that's not. It's more aggressive than their other stuff. It's a
Mhm.
little too. It's pushing the envelope in one area that they just didn't go to. They didn't go to that place. They didn't get beat by another song that had similar energy that was better. No, they just didn't go there. And you're like,
And it could
okay,
be
it's not quite
sometimes
their brand.
it's a
It's
situational thing too. I mean, in this case, maybe it wasn't quite their brand, but also it could be like, you know what? Like, all once we finally start to put the album together, right?
mhm,
Or the EP together, and it starts to take on
a
a
vibe,
a
feel.
vibe
Yeah.
as a collective
Hmm.
work, artwork, and then some of the stuff starts to stick out, and so all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, okay, this one maybe just doesn't fit
Yeah.
on this album because of the tone. And in this
Hmm.
case, but they did cut it and they
They
did
did.
release it overseas, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that particular one
for a
was like
bonus
a
track.
bonus track, and then I had another one that ended up being, like, iTunes Europe called "Last Night Last," which is still one of my favorite songs. So,
Mhm.
it's just, like, things happen. So, like, in Cheryl's case, he pitched that song 139 times or whatever, and the John Michael thing, he pitched 39. It doesn't mean it's a bad song, it just means it's hadn't found the right home yet.
Yeah.
And so that's what I hope you'll take away from this as a climber is that it may mean that your songs need to get better. And that's always one thing we should take from it is always the answer is get better, right? That's always the answer. but it doesn't mean that that song is not good enough. It might, but it might just mean it needs to find its right home.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I'm glad Cheryl didn't give up on those songs because they end up getting cut. And so that kind of perseverance,
Yeah.
where are you going to give up? And the reason I bring this up is I believe songwriters need to pitch their own songs, right? Unless
Mm-hmm.
you're just such a not a people person that having your name and face associated with that song is going to hurt his chances, right? But there aren't
Mm-hmm.
many of you. I mean, obviously, if you listen to the Climb, you're cut above the normal songwriter. So you need to be thinking about this, like, how can I get my songs out there? I mean, you're talking about situation, time, and place. I had the Joe Nichols thing where I've been pitching my own songs for a while, and my publisher didn't know what to do with the song Crickets, and so they didn't do anything with it. So Bill and Lisa and I just started pitching it around ourselves, and I got I think at one point maybe an Easton Corbin hold on it. I'd gotten some interest here and there, pitching it around, and I had pitched it to Joe Nichols' camp when he was on Universal South, and I played it for Mark Wright, who was like the head of the label there, and he passed on it directly. I was sitting in his office, he passed on it, like, dadgummit, because I just felt like this is a good Joe Nichols pitch.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I don't know, 2 years later or something, Universal South is not around anymore. Joe's over on Red Bow on part of the Broken Bow label. And so I'm able to get it to the head of that label, Benny Brown, and I send it to Benny, and he loves it and sends it to Joe, and Joe loves it. It's like, then it got cut and became the title track to the Cricket record. And good thing I didn't give up. Just, well, Mark Wright didn't, and Mark Wright, he's a pro. He knows what he's doing. He's had his hand in a ton of hits. So it's not any, like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
He just has a certain taste, and
Yeah,
and
it just, that's the business. You can't.
Maybe Mark Wright makes the same decision that Benny Brown did 2 years later if he
Yeah.
was still at the helm. And maybe, you know what? Maybe he doesn't, because that's not just what he hears
Yeah.
for him as the producer, because
Mhm.
he's a monster producer
Yeah,
too.
he's great. Yeah. And writer. And
Yeah, and writer. And so it's a different taste thing. It's like,
yeah.
man, it's like, what color are you gonna paint the living room? Well,
Yeah,
there's, a million choices that are gonna be killer,
exactly.
and some that are just gonna be patently, objectively horrible,
Right. And so obviously, yeah, he knows what he's doing, and so does Benny and that camp, and but it's just hanging on to it, going, you know what? No, I still believe this is a quality song, quality Joe Nichols pitch, and then the circumstances around him changed where he could hear it himself, and it got cut. I mean, but there are stories of pitching to the same artist, multiple times. My friend Matt Lindsay, he's pitched. Well, speaking of Joe Nichols, the song "Who Are You and I'm Not Looking." Joe Nichols cut that. It was an album track. And so it got cut, but Lindsay was still like, this is a Blake Shelton hit. This is a Blake Shelton hit, and he kept pitching it to that camp. And it's like, hey, Joe's cut it, but he didn't single it, and finally they were like, okay, I'll play it for Blake. But if he says no, I don't want to ever hear the song again. Like, stop beating down my door. And Blake loved it, singled. It was a number one.
Yeah.
And so it's like, even after he got the cut, he's like, there's a bigger, because Joe didn't single it. Let's keep going. And so that kind of perseverance you need as a songwriter, if you want. I mean, how many cuts wouldn't happen if people just gave up on that stuff? I mean, Monday Morning Church was on hold a couple times for different artists before it landed with Alan. I mean, that's just a natural course of events. You don't take it personally. You just like, I'm going to keep going until we find this sucker a home. And so I want to encourage y'all to.
And hey, remind me, I'm saying this on air to go on record, but we need to have Cheryl on the show.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. We do need to have that.
I can make that happen.
Okay, yeah, I can reach out to him too. But yes, let's do that. So, climbers, if you hear this, remind us. Where's Cheryl Blackman?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so here's another part of an interview, and this is with Steve Seskin. So Steve is, just huge. He's had so many hits, from "Grown Men Don't Cry" by Tim McGraw, "Don't Laugh at Me," which is the NSAI Song of the Year and Music Row Magazine Song of the Year by Mark Wills, "No Doubt About It," and "For a Change" for Neil McCoy, "No Man's Land If You Got Love" for John Michael Montgomery, "Daddy's Money" for Ricochet, bunch of Colin Ray stuff, "All I Need to Know" by Kenny Chesney. So he's just had, just a bunch of stuff. And so they asked him, how can a writer know if they're ready to hire a song plugger? So I firmly believe, even if you have a song plugger, even if you have a publishing deal, you need to be out there building relationships, pushing your own songs, plugging your own songs, because what happens if that plugger gets hit by a bus, or you can't afford that plugger anymore, or if you lose your publishing deal, all of a sudden, oop, I don't know anybody, right? You don't want that
Mhm.
situation. It's an all hands on deck situation. So, how can a writer know if they're ready to hire song pluggers? So, this is from Steve Seskin. He goes, I think you need to have been writing for a while. And I mean more than just a year or two. It takes a while to get good enough to compete. The reality is, when a song gets pitched, the whole town could hear it in like a week. And then there's no one else to pitch it to for a while. I mean, you've got a plugger on retainer. So usually these independent song pluggers like a Cheryl Blackman or these other people, Shane Barrett, typically they will say, okay, you pay me this much a month on retainer and I pitch your stuff and send you pitch logs and let you know what's up. So typically they're on
Mhm.
retainer. So you're paying them every month. And if you only have one song and everyone's heard it in a week, come on. So it says Seskin says, I would wait until you have a catalog of a competitive songs. That way your song plugger has a choice of material to pitch. Before you pay somebody to pitch your songs, I think you should have gotten positive, even more than positive, really amazing feedback from lots of sources, from other people in the business or somebody at ASCAP, NSAI, CSAC, Songwriting Pro. Another way to gauge if your songs are ready is to play them out. If you're gaining a following, if everybody loves your songs and keeps saying you ought to get that song to so and so, but you have no idea how to do that, it might be a good time to get in a relationship with a song plugger. So there we go.
Yeah.
It takes more than just I've got some songs. All I need to do is get them to so and so.
Yep.
Well, what kind of feedback have you been getting? I mean, pluggers can, I don't know, hundreds of dollars a month to have them on
Yeah.
retainer. And
That
hopefully
makes that
the
one song very expensive to plug.
very expensive
That 10
and the
songs.
chance of making that money back, after a couple
Yeah.
months, because it can take years to place a particular song, if ever. There's still so
Yeah.
many great songs out there that deserve to be cut that just haven't because they haven't found that home. Um, and so part of it is, what kind of feedback are you getting from people? Are you consistently getting, this is really, really good? And not just one song, but a bunch of songs that you're building, because you want to build a career, not just trying to get one song cut. And a song plugger that's, has integrity is not going to take retainer if you only have one song that's worth a darn, or no songs. You
Mm.
have something of value to them, which is money, but the ones with integrity are not going to let you pay them because they know they can't provide their end of the deal. They can't get you cuts or
Yeah,
get you
it's not a money
fair
shakedown for
listens.
them. They're going to pitch what they're being paid to pitch, and they're
Hmm.
damn sure not gonna walk in with
With
an amateur
subpar
song
songs. Yeah,
and just see what happens.
right.
They already
Because
know what it
yeah,
looks like.
yeah, because those doors will no longer be open to them if they start walking in
Yeah.
with pay to play songs.
Which is how they make their but that is a song plugger's living, is
Hmm.
relationships.
Hmm.
They have the relationships that where, not only can they call up a Mark Wright like you did and
Hmm.
say, "Hey, man, I got this thing, like, when are you free? I gotta play this song, I think it'd be good for blah, blah, blah." "Okay, man," or, "Yeah," or just send it over. Or when you do pitch sometimes there's pitch meetings for an album, right?
Hmm.
And guess who's on guess who, call Cheryl, get him in here.
Yeah.
Call this plugger, that plugger, get him in here,
Hmm.
and they're just gonna go through, what you got now, what's happening right now,
Yeah.
and so they're getting called too, but those are the relationships.
Hmm.
That's what you're paying for to get, to good. So when when somebody like Mark Wright is looking at a Cheryl Blackburn and they come in, he's prepared to love it.
Exactly. He's like,
Now
you're here
does
because
it fit or does it not fit, you know?
right.
It's not, "Is
Exactly.
this good or is it bad?" It's always good. It's
Right.
like, "Does this work or does it not work for my artist? Like, for this project for my artist
Yeah. It's a
at
very
this
specific
particular
need.
time." Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even know until they hear it. But the
Yep.
thing is, people like Cheryl, they make their living by showing up as a solution, not a problem.
Yep.
Somebody walks in consistently or a few times with subpar songs, then they're a problem. Now you're taking up
Mhm.
my time. Otherwise, if they show up with one or two or always consistently great worthy songs, then they're showing up as a potential solution, not a waste of time. And
Yeah.
that's how you want
And
to show up.
this occurs to me too, like, they know how to dress it up, how to frame it, right?
Hmm.
Because you might have, like, okay, we're looking for this, like, you know, uh slay you kind of song, this
Hmm.
heavy song, or, "You know what? This song will play you this song for you. It's a little this is just This is like a novelty thing, you know?
Yeah.
This is like if the right artist does this, it'll be cool, but they're being honest with the people they're pitching it to. What was
Hmm.
the one song that we were talking about that I'm thinking about that they oh, I was it I think it was it Honky Donk Badonka Donk where they're like they played it as a joke even
It might be. It might
because
be.
it was
There have
so
been
funny and
some.
they're like, "We're gonna cut that," and it was a number 1 hit. Like,
Well,
and
I've
they
heard
played it
that.
as a friggin' joke
I mean,
because it was so out there.
so out there, I've heard that that Dixie Chicks hit "Goodbye Earl"
Mhm.
was just not so much pitched as just played around. Like, y'all got to hear this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is so crazy because it was just so good and so out there. Maybe wasn't even pitched, but they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna cut that because
We're gonna cut that.
it makes
And they
perfect
sort of
sense
see
for
like, "We can
them.
make that work. Yeah, we can
And
do
they
that. We
totally
can do."
do that fit their brand. But it was
Yeah.
probably floating around town just because it was crazy and brilliant and so good and so
And
out there
funny.
and funny. Like you
So
just
it's
got to hear this.
entertaining.
Very
Yeah, it's
entertaining.
entertaining.
And it got passed around and found a home and found the right home for sure.
Yeah.
And another thing is, let's see, what would you? This is interview with John Ogier, who is still running stuff. I think he's over at Reservoir Music. So all these people are still kicking it.
Mhm.
What would you say to a fairly new song plugger, and I'd add, or songwriter pitching their own songs, about what not to do in a pitch meeting with A&R? So A&R is artist and repertoire. They work at a label, or they might sometimes work independently for a producer, but basically their job is to find hits and hit artists kind of thing. So they're looking for hits. John says, don't play too many songs and don't play songs that aren't up to par. I realize everybody has got to start somewhere, and new pluggers in town probably aren't going to have the best catalog. I understand that, and I try to make allowances, but I think it's extremely important for song pluggers to listen to as many songs as possible. They need to be able to hear a hit song, and you don't really have a good perspective till you've listened to at least a few hundred songs. They also need to listen to what everyone else is pitching, know what the competition is, and what they're up against, because if they don't know that, then they don't really know where they stand. Like, really. You may think you're playing the greatest song until you walk into a room and hear Doug Johnson or Craig Wiseman or Jeffrey Steele's song. Then it's like, oh, that's what a hit sounds like.
Yeah.
And this is when Ogier was working at Curb Records. So he was A&R. So he's speaking from the A&R side. Now he's working on publishing side. And he's also a hit songwriter.
Mhm.
And so they ask him, what are your biggest challenges in finding songs for your artist? He goes, finding great song ideas that are new and fresh and up-tempo. You know, and John says there are so many great writers in this town, and I think if people spend as much time looking for great ideas as they did great lines, we'd have a lot more great songs.
Mm. I wonder if all those people could do song title challenge, and it solves that idea part of the equation.
Isn't that amazing?
If somebody only had a framework to do that.
If only. Gee, maybe
That we have proven over and over and over again
Well, that was that
that
song.
it does in fact work.
Yeah, we talked about that song that came in from I believe Brad Hacker and Patrick Adams, the "Drink You on My Mind," when they sent that into
Mhm.
Song Title Challenge, and we rolled that around, and then I think they ended up bringing me in to write on it.
Mhm.
And I pitched to an A&R guy, and one thing he said about it was like, I wasn't sure about the title, but that was a really cool different angle y'all took on it. Like, I really like that,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like the angle kind of redeemed that. Yeah, he thought he knew where it was going to go, but he didn't
Yeah.
know where it was going to go, and it was so a different angle that still fit the market, and it was up tempo.
Yeah.
And so
And
like,
that and they sort of took "Drink You on My Mind," where he just started when he goes to the bar and he starts drinking, he's just thinking about his boys
think about his
back
boys
home.
back home, think about the girls back home, and you never know. You just may get that 2 a.m. phone call if I keep,
Yeah. "What's up,
lifting this
Dad?
glass.
Come on!"
Yeah. And so it became more of, my guys back home, my hometown crew kind of thing. So it was just
Such a
fun and
universal idea too,
yeah,
and so out of the ordinary from,
I miss
"You
her and I
broke his
drink and I
heart,
miss her
and then I
more and
drank, and I drank you on my blah, blah."
yeah,
That's what we call the low-hanging fruit.
or call you up for a booty call, which there
Mhm.
are a bazillion of those. I've heard publishers talk about, okay, that's just another one of those.
Yeah, yeah,
Another one of
great.
those. You
And
don't
you
want to
put that
be
in this pile over here that is, the extension of a dump truck
mhm.
full of songs that have that same concept, like
Yeah. You don't want to
and
be
then
like
the "Drink You on My Mind" about the boys and the girls back home, your homies, that pile's this big. It's got one piece of paper.
there are not as many of those.
Yeah, it's
And
very, very small.
and for me as a writer, I want the songs I write to be more of a binary choice. Like, yes, we love this, or no, we don't love this. Not yes, put that in the stack with all the others that are like it. Like, I'll still take that better than nothing. But still, I don't like that math because, like, even if they wanted to do like, oh, here's the Booty Call song, great, put it in the stack with the other 5,000, and we're gonna pick the Craig Wiseman one, or the Shane McAnally one, or the Ashley Gorley one, because one, they're gonna be really well done, they're gonna be really solid, and two, it's more fun to call them and go, guess who's gonna get their 61st number one, or whatever. It just, and it's a safer bet, and nobody looks foolish if they cut an Ashley Gorley song. Nobody's job is on the line because they picked some unknown song that underperformed. And so when I write, I mean, it's not always the case. You don't always have those, but as much as I can, like, how can we make this a little more where they don't have a dump truck full of those type of things, where even if they love mine, it's got to beat out all the other ones that are just like it. I don't like that math. I'd rather say, yes, I dig this, or I don't dig this, but I don't have a ton of them. And it may take longer for that to get cut, but I'd rather have it take longer than have it take never.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a little sidebar on that. But yeah, looking for fresh ideas, tempo. That's really important. That's really important. So anyway, the book is called Song Plugger, The Cuts and the Bruises. I believe you can get it on Amazon. There are probably still a few left. It's, I think it's a good book. Those interviews, there's still, I mean, there's stuff that's, dated, obviously. It's been a while, but there's a lot of timeless wisdom in there about perseverance. Don't overplay, bring in, listen to how they want to listen, and respect their time, and just a lot of good stuff in there. So,
and timeless wisdom also, like, perspective, I think.
Yeah.
When you realize that Cheryl Blackburn got two cuts, one that he pitched 40 times,
39 times, and one like 130 something or whatever. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, now how, like, we just had Tracy on the show, and
Tracy Hits. Yep.
Yeah. And she was like, and last night she was at the thing for for Bridget's publishing party last night. She was there, and we were talking, and she was talking about one artist, an artist we both know, we both love, and everything like that. And she's got like over 200 songs. She's makes a living doing this. She does amazingly well. And she's, Tracy's like, well, how long has it been since you pitched a song? Answer, like, never. 5 years. Like, she's never pitched a song. It's like, okay, like, why, like, come on, you got to go pitch that. Like, it's like, these could have a life outside of you. You know what I mean? And so it's important that you do that. I love that. This is a good one, Brent.
Well, thank you. So I figure not all the good stuff has come out of my head, and there's a lot of good stuff that's not in my head. So I'll try to do this a little bit more often, find a good book, a good resource, and bring it to you, dear climber. So, hey, one thing we do, and I've gone over this book a little bit in one of my jam sessions recently at songwritingpro.com jam session. It's an acronym, stands for Just Ask Me. So if you have like follow-up questions and stuff like this or whatever, every month so far, without fail, for the last several years, we have a jam session, which is we hop on Zoom, and it's for members only. And we hop on Zoom, and I'll share like a story out of something like this, or some sort of nugget for like 10 minutes. And then we open it up to questions from the song pros. And they could ask whatever about the art, the craft, the business of songwriting. We record them. They go in the member area as a resource for our members. So we actually have one coming up tonight at the time of this recording, which is going to be fun. They're always a good time. And so we just have a lot of opportunities for songwriters to pick each other's brains, to pick my brain, to get stuff that I'm not sharing everywhere else. And if you're interested in that, with some help on your climb, songwritingpro.com. We have some giveaways there, some little gifts for you for stopping by, and it's just fun. We have a 14-day free trial if you really want to dig into the good stuff. So that's songwritingpro.com.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, that takes us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. We love you. We want you to win. That's why we made this podcast. It exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top or in Al Cooley's office.